Let's talk about this dial because this is where the whole vibe of the watch comes together. Now, I have got a lot of green dialed watches in my collection. It's kind of become my thing. I didn't even plan it. It just slowly happened. Like one day I looked at my watch box and realized, yeah, green might actually be my favorite dial color. I'm not talking about any specific greens either. I like all greens, flashy or those subtle, versatile shades that feel calm, earthy, and timeless. And this one from Traska, it hits that sweet spot perfectly. The shade here is a muted olive green, not too bright, not too dull. It's the kind of green that feels like it belongs in nature. Like the faded color of a well-worn canvas field jacket. What I like is how it plays with light. In direct sunlight, the dial almost has a brushed metallic sheen to it, soft and reflective, but never shiny or glossy. And under indoor lighting, it deepens, turns a bit matte and less reflective. That shift adds dimension. Like the watch is always changing depending on where you are. And the more you wear it, the more you notice those small details that set it apart. The hour markers and hands, for example, now those might look familiar. If you are thinking Rolex Datejust, you're not wrong. The baton style indices, that classic three-hand layout, even the proportions, it all feels like it's drawing inspiration from something tried and true. Is it a homage territory? Pretty much so. But there is a reason that look has stuck around for decades. It works. It's clean, it's readable, and it just looks sharp on the wrist. See that little pop of the color on the minute track, those tiny orange numerals at each hour? At first glance, you almost miss it, but then once you see it, it's kinda cool touch. That soft orange print adds just enough personality to make the dial feel fresh. I think they removed it in newer models. It's just white color now. We gotta talk about the date window. Now, I will be honest with you, it's not perfect. In fact, if you are a little OCD about alignment, you might already be feeling some tension just looking at it, because on my version at least, the date doesn't sit perfectly centered in the window. It just slightly off. Not enough to ruin the watch, but enough to notice. It bugged me at first. I even debated returning it. But here's the thing. My watch is from one of the Traska's earlier batches, back when they were still dialing in all the fine details, and from what I have read and heard, they have since tightened up a lot of those little quality control issues. Later batches are better aligned, cleaner, and more polished overall. Still, it makes you think, right? Like, should a $500 to $600, or I think it's even more, $600 watch ever have an issue like that? And honestly, it is kind of a thing that makes you appreciate the weird balancing act micro brands have to deal with. They are a small team, usually self-funded. They don't have endless resources or massive factories backing them. So if they want to bring us cool designs, better specs, and unique colors, sometimes small details slip through the cracks. As long as they improve and listen and fix in future batches, I can live with it. It's the cost of giving smaller brands a shot. But if that happens with Seikos and Citizen, then it's annoying. And in this case, the dial is so well done, so easy to wear, that I'm willing to let it slide. But when you look at the whole picture, the way the hands shimmer against that olive base, the way the light hits the dial just right on a late afternoon walk, you start to forget about the alignment. You enjoy the watch. That's the power of a good dial. It doesn't just tell the time, it sets the tone for the whole watch. And with this one, it's done right. Going to the movement, under the hood, Traska's running with the Japanese Miyota 9 series. And honestly, it's a solid choice. Mine has 9019 inside since it's got that date window. But if you go for the no date version, that one uses 9039. Both beat at a smooth 28,800 vibrations per hour, which gives you that nice clean sweep on the second hand. It's got everything you would expect: hacking, hand winding, 24 joules, and a 42 hours of power reserve. Even though it's not Swiss, it's good for the price. It's thin, super reliable, and it's gonna keep ticking for decades with no drama. Traska regulates each one in 4 positions before shipping. That means you're getting accuracy that is tighter than what Miyota promises out of the box. I have found mine runs pretty steady, nothing crazy, just dependable. And yeah, it's kinda loud. Some people are not on board with that, which I understand. Now, let's talk about the case. The material here is 316L stainless steel, which is pretty common, but not just your average steel though. It is hardened, the same as the bracelet, which means it holds up better against scratches. And that is something I can get behind, especially for a daily wear piece. I have knocked it into door frames, desks, even a kitchen counter edge once, and it still looks clean, barely a mark on it. But it's not just tough. It's beautifully finished too. You have got this soft brushing across the top surfaces, and then right along the edges there is a polished chamfer that catches the light in the smoothest, classiest way. It's subtle, but once you notice it, it's hard to ignore. The transitions between brushed and polished surfaces are crisp. No sloppy lines, no weird uneven patches, just clean, intentional finishing all around. And on the wrist, it wears like a dream. It hugs my wrist in a way that's hard to explain. Nothing digs, nothing sticks out. It's just there, sitting right where you want it to be. And the proportions are perfect. This is a 36mm case. They have 34 and 38, but 36 is just perfect for me. The thickness with the crystal is coming at 10.5mm and lug to lug is 44mm. Now, topping that case off, it's a fixed bezel. The top has this sunburst brushing that elegantly teases the light. It almost shimmers when it catches a ray of sunlight. It is subtle, but it elevates the whole look. But none of that means anything if the crown is pain to use, right? Thankfully, this one isn't. The screw down crown is smooth, like ridiculously smooth. It threads in perfectly every time, no hesitation. There's a decoupling mechanism built in too, which means when you're screwing it back down, it won't accidentally wind the movement. Together, the case and the bezel and the crown, they all tell the same story. Thoughtful, refined finishing, and nothing done by accident. And when you have got all of that working together, it sets the tone for the entire watch. But what really ties it all together, the way the bracelet connects. You know how sometimes bracelet just feels right the moment you put it on? This is one of those. And honestly, this is one of the best ones. It's buttery smooth. Traska took their time here. The bracelet starts at 20mm at the lugs and gently tapers down to 16mm at the clasp. That taper, it is part of what makes it feel so balanced. It's got that vintage vibe to it, but with modern fit and finish. Each link is solid, fully articulating, so it naturally drapes around the wrist. There is no stiff, janky feeling like you sometimes get with cheaper bracelets. It moves like a bracelet should, smooth, fluid, just right. Traska put the bracelet through the same hardening process as the case, so it holds up better against scratches, which is a huge win if you're wearing this thing every day and you don't like scratches on your watches. I don't mind scratches personally. If the steel finishing is good, scratches don't take anything away from how the watch looks. And the clasp, the outside of the clasp edges have these polished chamfers that catches the light just right. Nothing flashy, just clean. And inside they went with this pattern finishing. You don't even see it unless you're specifically looking for it, but it's there. With that being said, the clasp is a bit sharp on the edges. It's not smoothed out properly, but again, I think they have fixed it in their newer models. You have got 5 micro adjust holes on the clasp, no on the fly adjustment unfortunately on this model, but if you buy one now, those do come with an on the fly adjustment, which is great, especially now during those hot summer days when your wrist decides to randomly swell like a balloon. The screws on the links are white flat heads too. Sizing it is very easy. It is honestly one of the most wearable, well-made bracelets at this price point. Thanks for watching. See you guys on the next one.